2 years ago, none of us really were talking about ESG or even knew what it was. And now it's one of the main topics that, I and all of my colleagues deal with. It absolutely is something that everybody in a leadership position needs to have their eye on, because it's sneaking in. I mean, they're not loud about it. So if that's happening in Montana, it's absolutely happening elsewhere. So yeah, grew up on a family farm and ranch in extreme northeastern Montana, probably some of the most rural area in all of America. Politics wasn't something that we talked about a lot around the kitchen table. We were usually so busy working cows or getting the crop in or doing whatever we needed to do. So yeah, I mean, in later life, when I transitioned out of that and got into practicing law and then got into politics not long thereafter, that is a tremendous influence on who I am politically and the way I look at the world, no doubt about it. It's environmental social governance, which is kind of a nonsense term. Really where it came from is liberals not being able to pass their agenda in the halls of Congress and in state legislatures. So what have they done? Well, they've gone to their buddies in big business and in banking, in insurance, in finance, and they've gotten themselves put on certain boards or they get themselves put on as asset managers. And suddenly we're now seeing businesses that should be worried about making gains for their shareholders, making profits, making a good product. You've now got companies in their boardrooms who are, worried about their diversity, equity, and inclusion policy, or whether or not they're supporting abortion rights, or, LGBTQ pride when you're a tire shop. These companies should be focusing on making a profit for their shareholders. That's literally their job under almost every state law in the country. And yet we're starting to see this ESG just perniciously work itself into a lot of these companies, and especially these bigger companies, and it's having real effects. We've seen a couple of these companies. We've seen BlackRock and Vanguard, much to our shock, work themselves into our state's biggest regulated utility. We're talking about our Board of Investments in the state of Montana. They're supposed to be making a profit, investing money for our state pensioners. We're talking about teachers, policemen, firefighters. That's what the Board of Investments needs to be looking at, not dealing with companies who are more concerned about, as I said, a diversity, equity, and inclusion policy at a company whose primary job is to generate electricity. So that's where it's really concerning to me is this affecting our pensioners in the state? My point is, if it's happening in Montana, it's happening on a bigger scale in other states. So, I mean, governors, legislators, certainly attorneys general need to be keyed up on this issue. This is a huge issue.